Welcome to a new series which I'll be calling Risk and Reward, and the series is pretty much as the name implies. I'll be discussing the exotic weapons within Destiny 2 and how hard or risky they are to get. So just before I get into this week's weapon, I'll go over how I'm going to structure this kind of video, and that is by giving both the risk and the reward scores of up to 5 points. A risk score of 5 means that the exotic weapon is going to be quite difficult to obtain, and a reward score of 5 means that the weapon is going to be very useful, that you'll likely have it on you at all times, if not most of the time. With these type of videos, I won't be considering the meta at all for the scores, because otherwise this is going to be changing every single season and will always be inaccurate, so they're not going to be included whatsoever. So the scores I'm going to give are going to reflect the general toughness of the ways to get these weapons, and the reward score is going to reflect how useful the weapon is. So starting the series off, I figured there would be no better weapon to do than the one from the current exotic quest known as the Wicked Implement. This is a stasis exotic scout rifle with the trait Creeping Attrition, which allows you to slow target after consecutive precision blows. And its catalyst allows you to utilize stasis shards by giving it a form of overflow, so when you collect these stasis shards, the catalyst will allow you to overflow the magazine and also gradually reload it. Let's start with the risk score, and the score I'm going to give this is a 4. But if I was going to deal with decimals, then I'd probably give this a 4.5, but that just overly complicates everything. But the reason this is being given a risk factor of 4 is simply because it's a mixture of good decision making and bad decision making by Bungie. So a quick rundown of the exotic quest is pretty much this. It starts off very easy and calming with the activity known as fishing, where you must get 3 exotic fish, which you can get 1 from the EDZ, 1 from the Throne World, and 1 from Nessus. After banking these fish in the aquarium on the helm, you will receive 3 blade pieces, which you will need to take with you into the deep dive. Within the deep dive, there will be 3 statues throughout the first 2 stages of the deep dive, so you just have to find these statues and give a sword piece to each one. By doing this, when you reach the second stage, the door on the right will open up, which will allow you to traverse in that direction instead of going on with the deep dive. So when you proceed through the stupidly buff enemies, because you know deep dives, you'll be meeting your first challenge, known as Call the Executioner Knight. And it's a very simple mechanic to defeat this boss, and not really a great deal of pressure if you keep moving around the arenas. The main focus is to take down the 3 taken minotaurs in each arena and receive a buff called Deathly Sharp ×3. This will allow you to do full damage to the boss, and taking down the boss in the first instance of this buff should be fairly easy to do. The big challenge, however, is that you only have 10 minutes from the start of this boss to kill it, and also another tougher boss straight after. The second boss being a labyrinth of swords, where you again need to kill the 3 taken minotaurs in the corners of the labyrinth before you can deal full damage to the tormentor boss called Omen, Blade of the Black Terrace. After torturing yourself for a while with this boss and eventually succeeding, you'll be able to head up to the statue and claim your prize. The reason this isn't a 5 on the risk factor is because with a 3-man team using Divinity, well, and weapons like Thunderlord or some kind of linear fusion rifle, it becomes substantially easier to beat it. Completing this duo or solo is incredibly difficult, and I honestly wouldn't recommend doing it if you don't have a fire team. But let's move on to the reward score and how good the Wicked Implement actually is in order to warrant this level of difficulty. 2. Yes, a measly 2. The reason being, whilst the intrinsic trait sounds pretty cool, it's borderline useless. Every situation you will possibly be in will not require you to slow an enemy, and if you are using a primary weapon like a scout rifle for damage, you're doing something wrong. The damage is okay for a scout rifle, as I was pretty much able to more or less 2-shot red bars when I was running through Vanguard strikes, but I can see this being pretty much pointless on a higher difficulty, with the Dead Man's Tail out damaging it and being a more preferable choice of the 2. If this trait was more along the lines of 3 or more headshots would freeze the enemy, then I would bump this up to a 3, because freezing a champion or a major after a couple of headshots is quite useful for a stasis build, which this synergizes with. So in summary, risk factor of 4 and reward factor of 2 means I would not recommend putting the time into getting the scout rifle, and literally leave it for when it's available in the kiosk if you want to be a completionist and own every exotic. But that is going to be it. Thank you very much for watching the video, and remember to leave a comment down below telling me what you think of the Wicked Implement. Is it as good as I describe it to be, which is not very good at all, or do you have a different opinion? I'd love to know. But for now, I shall see you all in the next video.